All right, so I hope everyone is doing well as we get ready for the start of another week. Try to tackle the back end of March 2020. I'm Matt Levine. Welcome to the YouTube channel for 954sports.com. A little sports talk with you. Been a couple of days since I've had a chance to talk about what's going on in the world of sports amid the coronavirus and how drastically we all know life has changed, especially in the world of sports. These are times I never thought I'd live through, right? Especially as a sports fan. That's kind of the angle I want to talk about with you. So I hope everyone is doing well. And I know certainly, I'm sure a lot of you folks out there can commensurate. Man, I do miss sports. Feels weird. Really does. You know? All the major sports leagues, the NCAA, all these listed right here, affected like so many things. And so many franchises in all walks, businesses, organizations around the globe and in North America, including those guys right there in the NBA, National Basketball Association, right? NHL, National Hockey League, NFL, Major League Soccer, MLB, the XFL. The NCAA is hard to believe right now. Who knows? The bracket could have been busted, could have been alive. I usually play two brackets, so it could have easily been 50-50, one alive, one busted. Hate not having March Madness. I certainly miss March Madness. About 3 years ago, the year the Butler made it, maybe that's more than 3 years ago, right? I already forget, 2015, 16, should have looked it up. Anyway, that year the Butler made it a handful of years ago. When the Butler did it, and they made that glorious run until UConn Huskies knocked them off. That year I finished tied for second in a pool of like 1,000 people. Won a good chunk of shekels. No complaints. Only time I ever placed in an NCAA tournament. Go figure. So, that was fun. I certainly love filling out those brackets. Should be gearing up for this. Opening day, March 26th, in ballparks across the United States. But no, we will not be seeing any baseball anytime soon. Won't be seeing that. Instead, we'll be seeing lots of B-roll of this. Empty arena seats, empty stadium seats. Just flat out depressing. It really is. What can you do? It is the state of the world right now that we are in, as just how things are, you know? It really is. I'm just expecting any day now for the announcement to come that the summer games in Tokyo and this summer of 2020, Tokyo, everyone has mentioned what an awesome job they have done of preparing facilities and a grand stadium and all these venues, and have put forth this monumentous effort to have the greatest summer games ever. And I'm expecting any day now that they will, unfortunately, have to cancel the summer games. In fact, I saw the Canadians said that they would withdraw from the games. They will not send their athletes. And I mean, there are bigger things, there are bigger fish to fry in this world right now. But again, I'm talking about sports. I'm Matt Levine, and again, I wish you're doing well. I thank you for any time you can give me here on the YouTube station as we all get through this. But with the Canadians pulling out, it's just a matter of time, like I said. They're going to announce that the games have been postponed, and I do feel for these athletes who train their whole life to get to the Olympic Games and only to have a pandemic wash it away. But who knows? Maybe they can postpone it for sooner than later, and we'll have a grand party in Tokyo. That's the hope. Now, the world of sports last week definitely came alive with NFL free agency. And the NFL, you run free agency and it's a virtual sporting event, right? Not an event where people are, just means that a guy signed for a lot of money with another team. Leave it to the National Football League in a non-threatening way to start their calendar year and be able to take a small dose of stress away due to this coronavirus that we're all dealing with in the United States and beyond. In other words, it was a breath of fresh air to have a distraction like NFL free agency. And leave it to this dude to make the biggest free agent announcement since LeBron James announced he's taking his talents to South Beach. Tampa, not quite South Beach, but it is in the peninsula in the state of Florida. And there you see it right there. Brady, the Buck. Was I surprised? Absolutely not. I thought Brady would go to Tennessee. I said that on one of my videos here on the 954sports.com YouTube station. I really did. I thought with Vrabel being one of his buddies and a coach with an upstart squad in Tennessee that made a great Cinderella run, they're kind of on the precipice of greatness. That organization, I think, they could take over in the AFC. They're right there knocking on the door. You see Brady there. Whoops. Picture's going nutty. Okay. There he is. Welcome to Tampa. See Brady right there and makes his decision. Bypass the Titans. The second choice I thought could be Tampa. Maybe the Chargers would be second. Didn't surprise me, though, to see Brady go to Tampa Bay. Get that picture back for you there. Didn't surprise the New York Post either. Tampa Bay Bucs. So Brady in. Jameis Winston out. Threw 30 touchdowns. Also had 30 interceptions. Turnover machines. Got some talent. You see there. Godwin. There he is, number 12. You've got Evans, who is just a dynamic receiver. Brady, arguably, I know he played 20 years with 6 Super Bowl champions in Tampa, and over the years had some great wide receivers, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, Randy Moss, Gronk. But he's got an opportunity now to play with perhaps the best tandem of receivers in Tampa Bay. As there you see a couple of those guys catching some Jameis Winston bombs. Winston had a career day in that one over the Bucs, 500 yards. I think he had 4 or 5 touchdown passes in the game last year. There you go, some of the talent surrounded around number 12. Ronald Jones, not a bad year for Tampa Bay. I don't know if you'd call him a primetime running back or an all-star. 724 yards. Split time back in the backfield for the Bucs last year. Eventually become their main man. 724 yards, 4.2 a carry, 6 touchdowns. So he's proven he can run the ball. And there you got O.J. Howard going into his 4th year as an NFL receiver. He's never had more than 34 receptions. He's done that in 2 of his 3 years, respectively. You know how a tight end becomes Brady's best friend, a la Gronk, as I just mentioned. Very, very interesting to see now if O.J. Howard becomes more than just a very good tight end and becomes a great tight end. And, of course, you have those 2 receivers, as I mentioned, Evans and Godwin. You've got a very good defense. I mean, the key reacquisition, putting the franchise tag, the key guy that they were able to keep was Shaq Barrett, right? 19 and a half sacks last year. It looked like he was on pace to break Strahan's record. And you get JPP. I always love JPP. I know he's dealt with a myriad of injuries. But if he can come back rejuvenated, so to speak, in that Todd Bowles defense, Todd Bowles, perhaps the best coordinator, not meant to be a head coach out there. He's got a 3-4 system. He runs well. I love Arians as the head coach. It's going to be a very different vibe for Tom Brady. Very different. And the control freak and the regimented vanilla personality. Bill Belichick, now he gets to play for Arians, who's colorful. He's got a lot of character. Completely different guy. I mean, a great coach in his own right. And he's a winner. I'm sure he's as organized to a T in his own right. But I think it's going to be a very different environment. I think it's going to be a big welcome for Brady in Tampa. And yes, I think he will be successful. New England Patriots did a nice thing, took out a full-page ad thanking Tom in the Tampa newspaper this week. So you can see the divorce, an amicable one. But it goes to show you, right? All good things do come to an end. And I think for Brady, it's very simple. I mean, he had $50 million. 50 million reasons. Got $50 million guaranteed, a $60 million 2-year contract to go to Tampa. Get, Brinks trucks filled with money. You get an opportunity to spend the last couple of years of your career in a looser environment with some talented players, and I think a team that was 7-9 last year could have easily been 10-6, 11-5. They lost a bunch of close games. I remember Daniel Jones in his debut was week 5, beat the Bucs in a game they should have won. They had a bunch of those last year. So a lot of talent. Very easily can turn it around. I think could win that NFC South. Could even make a run in the NFC. It reminds me, money aside, Joe Montana was not getting a guaranteed $50 million back in the 90s. But it does remind me a lot of Montana going to Kansas City, right? I remember a lot of folks back then when he left the 49ers, he won 4 Super Bowls. Steve Young took over. He had battled injuries, lost his job essentially, went to Kansas City, switched leagues, other way around, NFC to AFC. Brady, of course, AFC to NFC. Brady, older, much older than Montana. I mean, much older than any quarterback who's ever played on this level in his 40s, the exception of George Blanda, right? George Blanda was no Tom Brady. I mean, so Brady is just an anomaly. But in comparison to Montana, a lot of similarities. Montana went to an aspiring team knocking on the door in Kansas City. Strong defense, had some weapons. I think Brady's got better weapons, though, on that Tampa offense than Montana did on that Kansas City defense back in the day. Brady's got some studs. Montana did well. A lot of people tend to think he was kind of washed up and rode off into the sunset without any highlights in Kansas City. I remember him. I remember him losing the AFC title game in '93. And then I remember the wild card game specifically. I think it was New Year's Eve day, '94, because this is when I used to go north for college break from out west in Arizona. So I remember watching that game against the Dolphins, and they lost the wild card game, but they made a run to the AFC title game in '93, lost the wild card game in '94 to the Dolphins. But in '93, they won a couple of come-from-behind games in the playoffs to get to that AFC title game before losing it. So he did a good job in his 2 years in Kansas City. Then he ultimately retired in '95. I think Brady can do similar type of things that Montana did. And that's keep the team very competitive and knock on the door for a Super Bowl. I don't know why I keep saying knock on the door, but I do. Now I'm just going to keep saying it and say I won't. Okay, I won't say it again. I'm done. Knock on my computer. But I think Brady can keep the Bucs, right in there. Who knows? Maybe he even has a Peyton Manning-like finish. Wouldn't that be something if Brady won another ring in Tampa? Now you know Brady and Belichick. They each want to win a ring without each other so bad just to be the one who said, told you I can do it without the other. That's just the way it goes, right? But Brady, in essence, saving the sports world last week by default. I know that wasn't his intention. And I'm thankful that the NFL kept their start to the season, the calendar year, on March 18th intact despite all the terrible things going around with the coronavirus. So we'll see what's left this week to cover in the world of sports. I mean, there are some leftovers at quarterback, Jameis Winston being one of them, right? Now, I did see that Brian Hoyer did sign back with the Patriots, his third or fourth tour of duty, first one without Brady, so he could become a starter by default. No way Jameis Winston winds up in New England. No friggin' way. Guy throws 30 interceptions every plays for Belichick. Now, Cam Newton's another guy this week to keep your eyes on. I could see him go to New England. That would be something. We'll see how the world turns with kind of the leftover players now in free agency in the NFL. How rosters get filled out. I'm sure some of the other news this week we'll be wondering with the coronavirus taking over. The news, period. And leaving us sports fans with bated breath wanting something more. I'm sure this week discussion will begin around Major League Baseball. As I said, slated to start the 26th. I have no idea when Major League Baseball could even come back. You start entertaining that discussion. Because spring training now has been completely wiped out. I've said this before. Major League Baseball players are fine-tuned athletes. I don't care what anyone says. You can get a first baseman who looks like a beer league softball player, right? Get some guys with some guts. Guys who look nothing like world-class athletes, but these guys are tuned to perfection. Whether you're a specialist out of the bullpen, although now a reliever has to face a minimum of 3 batters, right? So a specialist is less of a specialist. You get my drift. If you're a relief pitcher, you're a DH, whatever you are, an elite center fielder, shortstop, catcher, up the middle guy, you base results on timing in baseball. And that's why they take a month to 5 weeks to get ready in spring training. Finding your rhythm, finding your timing, working on the fundamentals, working on cohesion as a unit, working with your coaches, working on all the minute details, right? That are going to serve you well into a 162-game season. Got through a good chunk of spring training, coronavirus comes, wipes it out. So my point being, you'd have to have a whole new spring training, or at least an abbreviated one. It's going to take a month to get ready. It's going to be very interesting to see how things are delegated, by how fastly the spread of coronavirus is limited. Of course, the NBA is dealing with this as well. They said they were going to take 30 days. Now, with the NBA, I did think of one thing. I'm sure this idea may have been floated out there. I don't know. I was thinking about this the other day. I think with the National Basketball Association, if the teams were healthy enough and, God willing, they were able to function and get themselves organized games, I think maybe what you would do is get in a scenario where you'd get the teams that qualified for the playoffs into a playoff tournament, and you would do it at one central location, no fans. That's what I was thinking. The players, all the teams, the players, whatever personnel is needed, scorekeepers, camera folks, a couple broadcasters, referees, all the essential personnel. You'd have them under one roof, like what they do with a conference tournament in the NCAAs. Whether it's the MAC tournament, the Pac-10 tournament, Pac-12. I always say Pac-10. When I went to Arizona State, it was the Pac-10. It'll always be the Pac-10 to me, but I know it's Pac-12. Whatever, Conference USA, you get my drift. The ACC, you get that same setting with the NBA. I don't know how they would do it, but you'd make it into some kind of tournament format at one central location. Maybe it takes a month, but I think that's how you have to play it. It's going to be very interesting to see, though. And you're hoping this becomes a problem because that means the coronavirus has become remedied. So we shall see what the week brings us in the world of sports and what's next. But again, Tom Brady, the big story last week. By now, I'm sure you've heard, he goes to Tampa. And I'm looking forward to it. What the heck? Right? A little drama in Tampa. Curious to see, too, what Belichick does in New England. I'll say this much. As long as Bill Belichick has a pulse and all his marbles, he's on that sideline coaching, he's got a chance. I don't care who's playing quarterback for him. He's got a chance. I would not count the Patriots out just yet. And I would count the Bucs in. Either way, it's going to be fun. NFL season a long ways away. I hope we get to that. For now, let's head into the week. Let's see what happens. With the news in the world of sports, as the world has changed, the world of sports has certainly changed as well. That's what I've got to say. I wish you all a great week. Wash those hands. I'm Matt Levine saying goodbye for 954sports.com and the YouTube station. So long. Have a great night.